Hello and welcome to And Still We Rise. I'm your host, Cristine Seidell, and today we are returning with Kaylee Finlay. Welcome, Kaylee.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. She's one of our therapists here at Rise Therapy Center. We have some other talks that she's come on, and I'm going to link them at the end of this video. But today, it's one of actually our favorite conversations.
We talk a lot about
yes,
this.
we do, learning to receive and how that has become really a hot topic in a lot of our therapy sessions. And I think just in relationships in general is recognizing that there are some individuals out there that really are having a hard time receiving in relationships.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about this person, this type of person that is really struggling to receive in relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I talk a lot about it because as therapists, we're so used to giving and we kind of see that pattern in ourselves too. But then also like in our clients, we see clients coming in who have this identity built around being a helper, being, they'll come in and say like, I was told as a kid that like I was the one everyone went to, right? Or I knew how to cheer everyone up, or, oh, I just like giving to people, like, but there's something, but then they also say that they feel lonely or they feel like they don't get as much back, and it almost like builds this like internal resentment in a way sometimes that they can't always name because there's like a guilt associated with it.
Ooh, that's a perfect explanation, is that they see the actions that they're giving, but there is this internal like grievance around not feeling satisfied or not feeling the reciprocity of what they're giving. And a loneliness, I think that's a really good word, is like the loneliness of being in relationships. And from an inner child therapist or like attachment and ego lens, which is what we kind of look at things through our work here at Rise, we do recognize that a lot of these kids come from family systems where there was one or both emotionally immature parents.
Yeah.
And so what we see is this child becomes very observing of the adult's feelings, the adult's beliefs, the adult's thoughts, that or those parents really are kind of like self-focused. Their worldview is really about their worldview. And there's not a lot of curiosity from these parents on like the child. Like, what is the child's thoughts? What are the child's beliefs? What are the child's feelings?
Yeah.
These are households where maybe, like their basic needs were met, like clothing, food, but there wasn't a lot of discussions around like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you believe about this topic? It was very much about the adult's worldview on things. And so this child kind of grows up with this very outward focused, presentation and perspective of what do others think, feel, and believe.
Yeah.
And how can I meet them there?
Exactly.
And so they do kind of like have a little bit of this void of their own needs, which is really resonating with their family of origin. So that's kind of where the overgiver or the underreceiver kind of begins to form, is in that childhood phase of an emotional attunement or lack of attunement from their parents or caregivers.
Yeah, and I think, we can talk like the parents play a role, and also when we look at like our society of like, we want giving to others is a great thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's really valued in a lot of like religions and cultures. It's just, you should give back all the time, right?
Yeah. A lot of recognition.
A lot of recognition. Like even we tell kids when they're young, like you need to share. It's going to hurt their feelings, which like these are not inherently bad values, right?
Yeah.
It's just when it combines with these emotionally immature parents or dysfunctional relationships or lack of identity being built or lack of like recognition of their own needs, that it kind of creates a cycle of discomfort around receiving.
Yeah, and I think the client begins to recognize this imbalance, So what do you see in clients that show up around identity or relationships? Like, what are some of these key themes that they're kind of experiencing, or maybe some of these belief systems that they have around receiving?
Yeah, I think it comes up a lot where it's just like they don't know how to be vulnerable with other people, because when we're only the giver, that kind of protects us from a lack of, or from a situation of vulnerability, right?
Yeah, there's no space.
There's no space. It's not focusing on us and our needs. It's focusing on someone else. And that's safer, right?
Yeah.
Because we get to then control like what we give or what that person gives. But if someone's giving to us, that's being seen too.
Yeah.
Right. And
absolutely.
that can be really scary, especially for, now adults who grew up in a household where they were not seen, right? They don't know how to receive that. So there's that discomfort, but there's also this question in these clients of like, why are these relationships hard for me?
Yeah. And I think that being seen piece is so important, because being seen in childhood is so much about our identity. When our parents or caregivers or like teachers or other authority figures see us and they're like, wow, like you are so amazing in this, that, or the other. We get to share part of that world, and our identity is becoming integrated in who we are, and that we can carry that out into the world. But being seen in childhood where there was a worldview where our selfness really didn't translate into anything becomes very unsafe. It's so unfamiliar. It's like, well, wait, like if I'm not giving, who am I?
Exactly. When there's a bigger identity, and oftentimes the people who are trying to give to that person see that bigger identity, right? They see that worthiness. They see like the good that person has and that inherent worthiness. But our, hypothetical client here doesn't see that.
Yeah. It's almost like it's unknown to them, right? So if it's unknown or unfamiliar, it must be unsafe.
Yeah, when we know that's not true, right? Like something can be unknown, unfamiliar, even uncomfortable without it being unsafe.
Yeah. So, something I see like right off the bat with clients, which is like a telltale sign, is like their inability to take a compliment without some type of response, like by dismissing it or devaluing. Oh yeah, you like the shirt, I got it on sale, or it was and just not just receiving the compliment, because it's such an uncomfortable thing. It's almost like I have to like prove that I didn't spend too much on it, or I have to prove that I worked really hard to like get this, or that I have nice eyes, but like, they're blurry today or whatever. Like there's this earning or proving. What are some of these fundamental narratives that they might have around worthiness?
Yeah, I think, that kind of ties into like this idea of like the modesty and humility and these like things that are not inherently bad qualities to have, but have been exasperated, right? And so some of those beliefs are, I have to earn this worthiness. I have to earn it. I have to show that I actually didn't take up too much space by doing this amazing activity, or, oh, but someone else was better at it. Like, if I tell a kid in session, like, wow, like you worked really hard on that drawing. Oh, well, so-and-so is a better artist than I am. It's like, well, we're focusing on you, and like I'm trying to recognize that this is something that is impressive.
This piece of art, like honoring this piece of a drawing,
So there's just this need to like prove that they won't take up too much space, right? Because that wasn't safe in childhood to take up too much space. And that they're doing something to deserve it, right?
So like that facet of like, I have to earn this or prove this. What about hyperindependence? Because we see that a lot in, overgivers, underreceivers. So tell me a little bit about hyperindependence.
Of like, no, I have to do it by myself, or, that's protecting our sense of control. Right. And it's also being reflective of, it wasn't safe to depend on the adults. When I was younger. And so it's not safe for me to depend on anyone else. So receiving is equal to dependence in their mind.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
And dependence wasn't safe. But it's okay to depend on others.
We absolutely need to.
We are community beings. We are meant to be in relationships. And I think something you and I talk a lot about is like, we heal in relationships. We don't heal in isolation.
So true. And I think that's such an important piece of doing that individual work with clients, is like helping especially that overgiver is like, this is not about becoming perfect before you enter a relationship. It's becoming aware of the patterns and the beliefs that you have about yourself, so that that extra layer will be healed in a relationship and or in relationship work, in therapy, like allowing there to be space for the individuals to not have to change the other, but becoming aware of what challenges they might be bringing, so that there's this opportunity to grow. And I think hyperindependence sometimes is like using that as a protective mechanism to be like, you know, if I can do this better than anybody else or a partner or whatever, then I don't have to necessarily be vulnerable. And we see a lot of like, oftentimes these overgiver underreceivers, like being hypercritical of people, you know, like even, you know, like, hey, let me do the dishes. No, I'll do it. I don't like the way you, you know, you load the dishwasher anyway. Like even in these spaces where they may be complaining or criticizing or like have grievances.
Or building like that internal resentment I mentioned earlier.
Yes, is really just a protective mechanism to control the vulnerability of having to receive.
Yeah. Which is really hard. I mean, and it's hard to like trust that someone else can see you and find you worthy when you don't have that sense of worthiness.
Yeah, and I think this stems back to like, you know, as we're building those implicit patterns as children, like what was unfamiliar or uncomfortable became unsafe. And so our body starts experience somebody trying to give to us as like, oh, no. Like resist. You can actually see them kind of be like, oh, like this old thing, like not, you know, or like, no, I can load it. Don't worry about it. Or I can carry this washing machine up by myself. And because you actually see the body start constricting because it feels unsafe just because it's unfamiliar. And so when you talk about doing some therapeutic work with children or adults, what are some of the things that you begin with in your therapeutic work to help them to feel safer or safe enough to begin receiving?
Yeah, I think it varies when I work with kids versus adults, right? And like we talked about earlier, like working with kids, sometimes it's about redirecting to like, oh, this moment, right? Like, oh, but this piece of art is really beautiful. You worked really hard on it. And just kind of letting them have a space where it is just about them. Like we don't need to bring in someone else to compare, right? Because that person's not in the room. Like, I don't know what their art looks like. So
I can't say it is better.
I can't say it is better. But being able to like enter their world, right? And like playing in the games they like, letting them talk about the things that really excite them. Right? Saying like, I see you. Maybe I don't know about what fandom they're talking about, right?
But tell me more.
But like, tell me more. Like, I can see that you're so excited about this, right? And just like seeing them in that way is really helpful. But with adults, it's a little more like, hey, well, what would it look like? Like, what are you afraid of will happen, right? Examining those childhood patterns and being like, you know, what role did you have to play in your house?
And I think, you know, creating that space of compassionate curiosity is so important from a therapeutic lens when working with these clients, because space fundamentally feels unsafe, right? And that's why they so quickly try to move out of it. And so I think from a therapist becoming very curious and compassionate in that, like, no, like this drawing right now, or, you know, this outfit right now, or, you know, I think a lot of times, like working with adults, it's, you know, allowing them to be vulnerable, even in a void, you know, so asking, you know, the clients that might be having grievances, be like, what would be nice to receive in this moment? You know, what would feel good for your partner to say or do, or for you to experience in this moment? A lot of times they don't know.
They don't
know. And that is, I think, one of the byproducts of the overgiver underreceivers is when there hasn't been any space, it takes so long to access what that need is. And from as a therapist, we can really kind of show up and kind of mirror, you know, I'm sensing that it might feel really good to have permission to feel sad or grieve, or, you know, just really kind of helping them see what we're seeing.
Yeah.
You know?
And sometimes it's about some of that gentle confrontation of like when we reflect something vulnerable that we're noticing.
Yeah.
I know you see it too, where they really try to quickly move out of it.
Yeah.
And like gently confronting, like, that was really uncomfortable for you, for me to notice that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And like witnessing them, like in their grievances and their resentment, right? Like when I hear a client like really just venting, like, and and I, every time their birthday rolls around, I make sure there's this and that, and like what happened on my birthday? All I got was this. And so I'll be like, so it sounds like you really value how considerate you are towards other people. And they'll be like, yes, I am considerate. So there's that identity. I'm being seen. I'm considerate. And then as a therapist, you're like, I wonder if that's something you would really value somebody else showing up for you in. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, the way I've been giving is actually what I have been trying to receive. And they oftentimes don't put those two together because that's just their automatic. That's their like just unconscious way of navigating survival. So getting them to like slow down, be safe in space to recognize, oh, the void, the resentment, the grievance is actually me trying to give myself what I've always needed.
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's also about like working with them on pulling back that giving a little bit, so there is space for these other people to step up, right? When we overgive and we put ourselves in that role, then we also are projecting this idea of, well, I don't need to do things for them, or like they don't need anything, like, or when someone offers to help 10 times and you say no every time, they're gonna stop offering to help, right? Right. And so sometimes it's about, well, what would it look like for you to say, no, actually, I can't help you move this weekend, right? Yeah. Or not being the first one at the ready to jump on someone's needs.
Yeah, and I think that like going back to relationships, like really understanding that there's this agreement in a relationship to meet emotional needs. And when we are over functioning or over giving, we're bypassing the like words of affirmation, like really speaking appreciation for somebody, we're bypassing the reciprocity that a relationship like is nourished by. And so, if we really are that loving and caring, sometimes the greatest act of love and care is to create space for others to show up, so that they get to be this active participant in the relationship instead of us using our overfunctioning to kind of keep this barrier to connection.
And like going back to that theoretical example of like birthday, of like if they go all out for everyone else's birthday, but what is the chance that their friends actually said like, hey, what should we do, like it's your birthday, and they said, oh no, don't worry about it. Right?
Yeah, it's
like,
no big deal.
It's no big deal. I don't really like my birthday. Right?
Yes.
Because that's being seen in a way, right? That's the attention on us.
Yes.
And that feels unsafe.
Right.
So they want this, but they resist it.
Yep.
They resist it.
Yep. And so how are we an active participant in this pattern and in our own harm, right? Like, because ultimately that vulnerable part does want connection and belonging.
It does.
Yet the self-saboteur who does not like to feel unsafe or out of control is creating a barrier to that connection. So as a card carrying in recovery over functioner, I can totally understand how uncomfortable that space is, but how like beautiful it is to be able to open yourself up to it and become self-aware and then participate in relationships differently. It's a very cathartic way to be in this world, and a part of that cycle that I think not only intimate relationships but friendships, work relationships, like we need this agreement of reciprocity in order to feel seen, heard, loved, and cared for. So
and I think something I kind of ask clients about is like, well, what do you think they see in you, right? Like maybe you don't have to believe that fully yourself, right? But if I trust my friend with so many things, can I trust for a moment that they want to give to me? Right? I don't have to fully believe that I'm worthy, right? But I trust them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just borrowing that trust.
I love that. Like offering this like moment of like, is it safe enough to trust or find evidence as to why this friend or this partner would see that worthiness in you? Can you see the evidence out there to support that? And just really like microdose them in the discomfort of acknowledging their own worth, you know? So I think that's a great point to use, and a great piece to be able to integrate those that are just now opening up to the discomfort of receiving. So,
but it's hard.
It is hard. Yeah, it's very difficult. And, you know, you wouldn't expect that to be the case, right? Because I think intellectually we can say, yes, I have these needs and it's okay for me to want these. But then our experience, our somatic response to it is that resistance. And that's your check engine light turning on, saying, hey, there's something deeper here we need to explore that needs some attention so that we can become more, you know, fluid and flow within relationships with a lot more comfort and a lot more positivity and optimism versus grievance and resentment. Like that's a heavy burden to carry.
And I think that check engine light is a good metaphor, because that doesn't mean you abandon the car, right?
It's got the sticker on the side of the highway. Bye.
No, it's a chance to be curious of, oh, what is going on here? What does need to be fixed, right? It's because, again, like we said, it's not unfamiliar is not always unsafe.
Correct. Absolutely. Usually it's not.
It's not. Yep.
Very few things are unsafe when we're conscious and aware. You know, we're picking up on that before we're actually experiencing it. So great point. Anything else you think you want to add to our audience or our listeners?
I would just challenge you guys to kind of think about the ways where you're overgiving and try to say yes to either like a compliment or an act of service, you know, throughout your week, of being, instead of, if someone says like, you look really nice today, instead of saying like, oh my goodness, I was running late and I just threw this together, be like, you know, thank you, I tried hard this morning.
I love that. Yeah. And I usually like to say anger, frustration, bitterness. If you're feeling that, check in and check with yourself, especially if you're an overgiver, underreceiver. Have I created space for this need to actually be met?
Yeah.
And oftentimes I know for myself, I haven't. Yeah. You know, I've been like, oop, I unconsciously went back into my old patterns. I need to create space, even for myself. Like, did I listen to myself? Did I give myself space to meet this need? So
How can I give to myself?
Exactly. Did I even create that space? You know, and that space is so uncomfortable for those that are over giving because it's too quiet. Yeah. So, well, I so appreciate the conversation. As always, I love the things that we talk about end up on the podcast. But I really appreciate your time. If you'd like to learn more about Kaylee, we'll put a link in our bio, and of course some of her additional podcasts, which are awesome and amazing, and we all enjoy them. So we appreciate you guys listening. Bye for now. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.